Marshall Islands chain. Objective: deny the Japanese a base for possible invasion of the Hawaiian Islands. Strategy: destroy Japanese airstrips, fuel storage tanks, ammunition dumps, and anti-aircraft batteries. Enterprise's task force cruiser USS Northampton kicks off the attack. Her 8-inch guns hurl their 260-pound projectiles 5 miles across the sea to their targets on the island. Closing to within 3.5 miles, Northampton can now use her smaller 5-inch guns to assault the shore batteries.
They were firing shells over the Japanese shore batteries. And instead of hitting the shore batteries with direct hits, the shells were exploding over the shore batteries and showering those positions with shrapnel.
USS Northampton is 600 feet long and 66 feet wide and displaces 9,000 tons. She has a top speed of 32.5 knots. With 9 8-inch guns, 4 5-inch rifles, 8 50 caliber machine guns, and 6 torpedo tubes, she is a force to be reckoned with. The island of Wochi is experiencing that force this morning. 100 miles west of Wochi, surveillance has revealed a heavy concentration of enemy vessels at Kwajalein Atoll. So while Northampton takes care of Wochi, Enterprise sends its SBD bombers to strike the Kwajalein anchorage. Dusty Cleese speeds south toward an outpost on tiny Kwajalein Island.
I found a cruiser there. So no fighters around. Oh boy, this is great. So I got up there and I made this dive.
Dive bombing is almost unheard of in modern warfare. Precision-guided bombs that can be deadly accurate from 40,000 feet have made this risky maneuver obsolete. But if you wanted to be sure of hitting your target in World War II, you had to get in close.
There's a lot of factors that come into dive bombing. Speed, dive angle, altitude at release, winds aloft. Clearly, the longer you wait to release the bomb, the closer into the target you're going to be, and the less all those factors can influence the bomb's trajectory. So in that respect, waiting is better. But you also got to be able to pull out of that dive bomb. And you also want to release the munition so that when it explodes, you're not caught in the frag pattern. So back then, typically released a bomb between 1,000 and 2,000 feet. Again, the longer you wait, the more accurate it's going to be, but also the faster you're going to be pulling out and the lower you're going to be pulling out. So it's kind of there's a happy medium in there somewhere.
As he dives down toward the Japanese cruiser, Cleese has just one bomb aboard, a 500-pounder.
He knew he had one shot only. Everything had to be perfect. And he did it.
I clobbered it.
As he pulls out of his dive, Cleese is feeling pressure 5 to 6 times the force of gravity. But there's no better feeling than getting right up in the enemy's face and delivering a knockout blow. 5 miles to the north, a fellow Enterprise dive bomber pilot has discovered a cluster of merchant ships near the Carlos Pass. He scores a well-timed hit on a tanker scrambling toward the channel's mouth.
It was trying to go out at sea, and he hit it right on the head and caught it on fire.
The tanker just happens to be at the choke point of the channel, and it blocks passage by the remaining ships.
Well, here were all these ships inside of the lagoon.
Then the USS Enterprise launched 9 torpedo planes after it to go get those remaining ships that were caught inside of the channel.
Practically no anti-aircraft gun, and here these things couldn't move. Well, it was like shooting fish in the barrel.
The torpedo bombers sent by Enterprise are Douglas TBD Devastators, slow, antiquated aircraft that will soon be replaced by more agile planes. With a sluggish maximum speed of 207 miles per hour and a feeble rate of climb of just 720 feet per minute, TBDs are overly vulnerable to both enemy fighters and anti-aircraft fire. They carry a single 2,200-pound Mark 13 torpedo. The Enterprise TBDs pass over Kwajalein Lagoon and drop their payloads, but there's not a single explosion. At this point in the war, American torpedo technology is hit or miss, and it's mostly miss. 9 out of every 10 torpedoes veers off course or fails to detonate. It's a frustrating reality for the pilots risking their lives at Kwajalein.
Launched their torpedoes, not one hit.
Luckily, there are American bombers in the area too, and their explosives are working just fine. Kwajalein Harbor is a smoking, burning wreck by the time Admiral Halsey calls off the attack. Some 90 enemy personnel are killed at Kwajalein, including the area commander. The Marshall Islands raids are a huge success, and Enterprise returns to a hero's welcome at Pearl Harbor.
We were standing out there and cheering. I remember nurses waving towels. I remember some of the Army people holding their rifles up. And I even remember one guy holding a mop, and he was shaking that back and forth. They were so elated that somebody had whacked the enemy good and proper. And of course, our sailors were manning the flight deck by the hundreds. And they were looking pretty spiffy up there. And as we passed the Nevada, those guys hollered out in unison, "Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray!" And our people responded, just unbelievably exhilarating. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! And it sounds kind of sophomoric at a time like this when you look back on it, but at that time, it's just exactly what we needed.
The sailors and airmen of Enterprise will soon get yet another small taste of sweet revenge. Mid-April 1942. Sailors on the deck of USS Enterprise notice that the air is getting chillier. They've been operating in the steamy South Seas for weeks, and now the brisk weather is making it very obvious that they're sailing north. But only the Admiral seems to know why. Tension aboard Enterprise is still high. At any moment, the calming sounds of the sea could be interrupted by the whine of a Japanese Zero or a torpedo broadsiding the ship.